Okay, welcome. It is Thursday, 8 December, year of our Lord 2022. We are jammed. We got a lot to go through. In this hemisphere, I got Todd Bensman, massive fight here in Washington, D.C. on amnesty. Believe it or not, with all the reporting Todd Bensman's done, all the frontline coverage we've given it with millions of illegal aliens, they've broken the asylum system. They've totally gamed the asylum system with millions here. They're talking about up here tonight giving basically amnesty to 2 million illegal aliens. It'll just be a magnet to suck everybody in. You heard Ben Bergquam the last hour say, hey, the number even on this deal is 4.5 million. Frank Gaffney is going to join us. We're going to talk about this major webinar they had today about China nuclear power, nuclear weapons, while China's in the Persian Gulf with the Saudis, having the Saudis kowtow to them. But I'm also, Frank is one of the top experts, has been warning forever about this hemisphere. Brazil's on the edge, but Frank has been arguing about countries like Peru and Chile and others. And in Peru, it looks like the left is falling. So I get to all that, but I got to start with Mike Davis. Mike, you did a great assessment. This independent state legislatures, and I just for the audience, because if you pick up the New York Times and you pick up the Washington Post, in the first paragraph, brother, it says it's kind of a fringe theory that a bunch of kooks like Mike Davis and Steve Bannon have kind of made into a thing. And some Republican legislatures in North Carolina have kind of taken this now up. Explain what this is. Is it a fringe theory or is it embedded in the Constitution? Then I want to talk about what happened yesterday.
It's the elections clause in the United States Constitution that says that state legislatures decide the time, place, and manner for federal elections unless that decision is overridden by Congress. So it means that state legislatures make that substantive decision on redistricting, the rules for federal elections, and that can't be overturned by state Supreme Courts, oftentimes Democrat-elected state Supreme Courts, or commissions appointed by politicians in the states. That you can't strip the power away from the legislatures unless Congress does it itself. And so that's what this case comes down to. In North Carolina,
why did the founders, hang on, why did the framers and the founders put that into the Constitution? What was their thinking? Why did they think that was important, sir?
Because they wanted to have power as close to the people as possible. And your state legislative seats are as close as you're going to get under our constitutional republic. That is, those are your state representatives. And they wanted to make sure that states had a say. They wanted a limited federal government. The federal government was only supposed to have specific, enumerated, and separated powers because the founders very much feared a powerful federal government. So it's another check on that is to make sure that the election rules and redistricting is handled by state legislatures. And when it comes down to, in North Carolina, the Republican state legislature did the redistricting, and it was favorable to Republicans. So the Democrat appointees on the North Carolina Supreme Court purported to override them and said that it wasn't even racial gerrymandering that they said that the state legislature did. They said it was political gerrymandering, and that's Democrat speak for we didn't like the way the Republican legislature redrew the House races. We're going to lose House seats, and so therefore we're going to come up with this bogus theory called political gerrymandering to have it struck down by their state Supreme Courts. That's what this case is about right now with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's going to decide whether that the North Carolina Supreme Court had the power to do what it did.
And when you look at this court, you look at the questions and you look at Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas have a certain view of the world, you would say, a certain angle of attack, as we would say in the military. But look, as you know, and that's why I reach out to you because that's my line of country, but Kavanaugh, particularly Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, but particularly Roberts yesterday, just in his questioning back and forth. Walk me through this.
Well, I think there's a 3-3-3 camp. There's the three liberals who will just go with the liberal result every time, the Democrat result every time, and their only principle is winning. There are the three constitutionalists, Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, who understand that their modest but critical role as a justice is to see what the law says, the plain text of the law, and what did that law mean to the public when it was enacted. So you look at the plain text of state legislature under the Constitution. What did that mean, and what did that mean to the American people? Textualism, originalism. I think with Roberts and to a lesser extent Kavanaugh and Barrett, I think that they're a little bit skittish and they're a little bit more concerned about the political implications of the rulings. And frankly, that's not a judge's job. Their job, that's why they have lifetime tenure. That's why they have pay protection. Their job is to figure out what the law is, apply the law, and let the politics work itself out. That's not their job as a judge to figure out the politics. That's the politician's job. But I think that they're with the three constitutionalists, I don't think they really care what the consequences are. That's not their job. But I think that Roberts, and again to a lesser extent Kavanaugh, and to an even lesser extent Barrett, there's a little bit more of an incrementalism to what they do.
At first, you thought this was kind of so cut and dry and so to the Constitution that this might be a 6-3. Is your opinion changed after you heard the oral arguments yesterday, and particularly the questions from the justices?
No, I still think it's going to be 6-3 in this case. It's just what kind of a bright line rule will be going forward. Does state legislature mean state legislature, which is what I presume Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch will hold, or does it mean some 15-factor test where we can navel gaze and put our finger in the air and figure out the political wins before we decide? And so we'll see how it turns out. I do think North Carolina is going to win here.
This had been done prior to the 2020 election. A lot of the fiasco we saw running around and guys running to state courts and having, the stuff changed by mail-in ballots by judges and signature verification. None of that would have happened, correct? That's
the bigger problem. Is not only is it redistricting where these Mark Elias lawsuits with these Democrat appointed state Supreme Court justices undo what the state legislatures did, and they get their Democrat maps based upon a bogus theory called political gerrymandering. It's also the fact that Democrats and weak Republicans allowed COVID to be used to unilaterally change the election laws in 2020. So, it's COVID, so we need to mail ballots to everyone on our voter list, even people who have moved like college students, even people who have died. I got a ballot in D.C. from someone who died 8 years prior owner of the House, and then they want to get rid of signature verification, and they want to get rid of election observers because of COVID. That's nonsense. The federal election rules, the laws for federal elections need to be decided by state legislatures or Congress, and that's it, and not some state judge or even a federal judge who thinks that they're going to substitute the will for the state legislature.
And so here we are now because of the fiasco in 2020 and President Trump wanting to stand up and say, hey, look, we're not a constitutional republic if it's not really a fair election that everybody buys into, right? And now you got over 50% of the American people that know this thing was rigged. The Rasmussen poll says like 59%. You've had these revelations on TikTok, on Twitter every day by Elon Musk that gets back to your point about the power of these tech oligarchs to suppress this. This thing gets nastier and more outrageous every day we see it, of federal law enforcement involvement, of intelligence sources involvement, of big tech involvement. And now, Elon Musk fires the former general counsel of the FBI, the general counsel of the FBI, one of the most powerful apparatchiks in the entire system, because the whole system is run by lawyers. And when you're a general counsel of one of these big departments, you're the man. And when you're the general counsel of the FBI, nothing the FBI doesn't go by James Baker, the counsel. He's over Twitter. He's fired. And today, Elon Musk basically says, not only to suppress, I think some stuff was destroyed. Right. So that it's getting deeper and deeper over there. Yet President Trump is surrounded every day. We come online. Our team gets down here and every day, bang, bang, bang. There's 10 stories about they got this, they got that, they got this grand jury, they got a new prosecutor. What is your assessment of all that? They are just maniacally focused on Donald J. Trump to try to chop block any type of run in 2024. Is that what it just boils down to? And we now know, because they're in front of the Supreme Court arguing a case that they shouldn't even have to argue, right? It's absurd this thing's even up there, even questioned. because it's hardwired into the Constitution. But Trump's trying to stand up for what is right for the country, not just for himself or his presidency, but what's right for the country. And they're coming after him from every different angle, Mike Davis.
Yeah, because President Trump was the ultimate disruptor. He was not part of the D.C. swamp at all. He was a successful businessman from outside of D.C., and he came in there and shook up that place. And a lot of those sacred cows were very upset. And look, Democrats care about power, and they will treat Republicans kindly as long as those Republicans go along with the Democrats' control of Washington, whether it's big tech, big media, government, the FBI, the intel community. The second any Republican starts to disrupt that, they destroy them, right? So we have these useful idiot Republicans who will go along with this and keep their mouths shut so they don't get destroyed, and Democrats are just fine with them. But people like Trump, those are an existential threat to the Democrats and their power, and so they'll do whatever it takes to destroy them. And look at Donald Trump, and look at Elon Musk and Donald Trump. They're billionaires, right? And they are going to go under constant lawfare from the left, constant attack. We've seen it with Trump for 5 years now. They're going to try to destroy him. He's Teflon Don, fortunately, so they're not going to be able to do it. And it looks like with Elon, he's willing to fight back, but there are very few people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk who have the ability, have the money, have the resources, and have the platform to fight back against this.
And the intestinal fortitude. It's just easier to quit and go just do your thing. This is why these two, they're trying to take them down. By the way, so people, tell how people get to, particularly, at first people said, well, this guy's not really Republican because the libertarians don't, what's he trying to do with big tech? These guys all made their money. Now more than ever, you got to see about Mike Davis's crusade against these oligarchs in big tech, because if we don't get this thing sorted, Mike, nothing else is going to matter. You got to get control of this. It's absolutely necessity. How do people find out what you're working on about the big tech oligarchs?
I've never been accused of being a libertarian, more of a caveman, conservative, but sure, it's Article 3 Project, article3project.org, article number 3 project.org, at Article 3 Project on Getter, Twitter, Truth, at Article number 3 Project. My personal is MRDDMIA, MRDDMIA, and there's a War Room Posse link at article3project.org that talks about all six these tech bills, these bipartisan antitrust bills, to finally bring much needed reforms to big tech. And the War Room Posse can go look at those online.
Mike, great fight. Keep it up, and thank you so much for all your assessment on these Supreme Court cases. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Mike was a clerk for Gorsuch, who he and Alito are the two brains of the operation, along with Thomas. I call this the Thomas Court because Justice Thomas does such a great job. If you talk about wheeling and dealing and weak Republicans, let me bring in Todd Bensman. Todd, here's what you got to help me out on. You've done more with, Oscar Ramirez, Oscar Blue. You've been down to a Burquamp, down by yourself, because you came out of the intelligence sector over at DPS in Texas. You've been around. You know what to look for. Your reporting's been amazing. Your first book on jihad is amazing. The next book out, I've had a chance to read it. It's a blockbuster. You've spent more time. You've dedicated your life to being down there. You also understand from law enforcement what the Border Patrol is going through, what ICE is going through, what the officials in Mexico have to go through with the cartels and half the politicians being bought. And no offense, let's talk about politicians and judges and certain law enforcement down on the border regions being bought. And now up with fentanyl's gone all over, they're buying everything, right? To see up here in Washington, D.C., and to see people sitting there talking about cutting an amnesty deal with everything going on the border, and you're walking us through numbers every day, and our heads are blowing up, and these are records, and it's millions, and 5 million, and ICE is not there. To see, and they want to know why people don't turn out for Republicans. To see Republicans, Tom Tillis, at the behest of Mitch McConnell, and all these establishment Republicans sitting there working nonstop 24 hours a day to come to a deal on amnesty for $2 million. And Ben Burquamp says, Steve, the number's really 4.5 right now for amnesty. What would that do to a border that's already exploding in an invasion, Todd Bensman?
I mean, the timing couldn't be worse. I mean, they're going to lift Title 42 in a couple of weeks. And at the very same time, they're talking about these incredible narcotics, these psychedelic drugs that are irresistible of amnesty, the things that draw in millions of people at the same time that the border, the very last remnant of a barrier down there goes away. All I can say is, look out. This is going to be a Category 5 hurricane. It was going to be a Category 5 hurricane before they started talking in Congress about all of these amnesties and the farm worker bills and all of the temporary protected status that they just gave to the Haitians. And, they just keep bestowing these incredible drugs that are just not resistible to the world that, I was just reading Mexican media, a story out of Monterrey, Mexico, and it just had a shelter that was overflowing with immigrants that were waiting, but they were all watching television day in and day out, waiting, watching television and watching what Congress is doing. The whole world is listening to them. Latin American media is covering this stuff nonstop, wall-to-wall coverage. There is no bigger story in Latin America than what's happening in the Congress right now. That is because migrants are smart. They're smart, rational people, and they're just looking at American policy for cues to when to come, when to pull up stakes. That's what's going to happen. We're looking at 540,000 a month, probably at least. 18,000 a day when this comes out, and we have had about 240,000 come through the Darien Gap in the last year, when usually no more than 10,000 a year come through. So it's on, man. It's on. And the Democratic Party.
I want you to talk about. By the way, we're not demonizing the people come through. They're making a rational decision. They're the one rational actor in probably this entire drama. I talked about the sophistication. When you go down, they got cell phones. They're texting. They're on WhatsApp. They're consuming. They're not low information folks. They're high information folks. I just want to repeat it. Mexican media. This is the most watched story. Everybody there's on the trigger because they're going to come to El Norte. And you put out a 2 million to 4 million amnesty. Why would you not come north? You'd be a fool not to come north. Am I wrong, Todd Bensman?
Oh, it'd be an absolute gold rush. It'd be like the Klondike. It would be like the California gold rush. It would be, the land grab where everybody's running and getting to the gate as soon as they possibly can. It's what's going to happen, because it's not just the people that are en route or still in their home villages. They all have relatives that are already in the United States, a great many of them, who are very sharp, and they've been here for a while, and they watch our news too, and they call them up and they say, hey, this is a great time to come. You have to come now while it lasts. I can't tell you how many times I've interviewed immigrants, hundreds of immigrants over the last couple of years, maybe thousands. I don't keep track. But I always ask them, why are you coming now? And it's because, my relative told me, I watched it on the news. We all sat around the TV set, and, they said now was the time to come. So we came now. And I never met a migrant who did not have a modern cell phone, fully connected to the internet with their own chat rooms by nationalities. I've been invited into the chat rooms and I've seen them. You can go in there and watch them. I'm still in a couple. So they're sophisticated and they are all watching. The world is watching.
I want to go Title 42, the numbers, because you said, hey, they publicly said 12 to 18. Some Border Patrol guys, we talked to people that were talking to them over the weekend. They said, hey, minimum 15 to 20,000 per day when Title 42 lifted on December 21st. Biden administration, Biden regime went in. They're going back into court now saying they don't want to lift it? They're not ready. Is this a misdirection play? Or are they basically saying the onslaught that'll hit, it'll be too public? It'll blow their entire scheme up because it's just going to be a wave of humanity, and they understand that it's going to prove that we're right.
There are a couple of things happening. Title 21 or 42 is set to go away on the 21st by court order, an agreement with the Biden administration for the 21st. We will be ready on that day. So they cut a deal with the ACLU for that, okay? But now there's another court case. It gets complicated in Louisiana that's been going back and forth, ping-ponging back and forth. And now the administration has informed the court in Louisiana that they're going to file an appeal in that particular case, and they would like it to be adjudicated before the December 21 lift. So it could happen. I've talked to experts about this, and they're saying it's a very, very slim chance that the court would accept their appeal and stay the December 21 date. However, in Congress, one of the pieces of that they're negotiating over is a clause that would maintain Title 42. So we'll have to see what happens with that. There are a couple of possibilities that it might not go away on December 21, but I'm being told that it's 95%
in the
chance.
Congress, is this on the omnibus bill or the continuing resolution? They're going to attach this to one of the spending bills, so it has to take effect. Where would you see this? Where would you see this actually attached to?
I can't remember the exact, but this is attached to the main immigration bill that they're all hammering out right now that passed, and it's going to go to the Senate, but it's still very much in flux. There are pieces of it. They're trying to get Republicans to sign on to this thing.
Hopefully we'll never. Let's talk about that. Josh Hawley of Missouri says over his dead body. And even you got Cornyn sitting there going, now's not the time to have an immigration bill. And he's pretty heavy inside of McConnell's inner circle, though McConnell's inner circle is running this. What are you hearing right now about the probability that because they can't do that, they can't maneuver this to do it in reconciliation. They got to break a filibuster. They need at least 10 Republican senators. What are you hearing up on the Hill?
All I hear is that they are whipping them up. They are lining up votes. There are Republicans in the Senate that are on with this. It's still in flux because the Republicans are asking for certain things. But ultimately, if this passes, my concern is really about the amnesties, because when I talk about like the things that the rest of the world are watching are the things that I'm interested in. And the rest of the world is watching the amnesty stuff, the DACA, legalizing a couple of million full-grown adults now whose issue really should be with their parents for doing this to them, not with the Congress. If this passes, you're going to lose 20% of the Republican base. We'll never vote again. We'll sit there and go, I'm done. I'm finished. It's over. Yeah,
if Mitch McConnell sells out.
Amnesties are poison. Amnesties are poison. Remember, in the last 72 months, we've had more children enter this country than at any time in history. There are, by my estimate, somewhere between 700,000 and 2 million at least. I'm being conservative. You know me. I'm always on the conservative side. But they're going to be next in line. I want DACA. I want amnesty. And all the kids in the world are going to be coming. Their parents are going to be sending them or calling for them to go get their amnesty in the next year or two because these guys got amnesty. And that's how it works. That is how it works.
Todd, tell me how to get the book. How do I get to your writings? How do I get you on social media? Because people have to follow you.
Thank you. Yeah. Overrun: How Joe Biden Unleashed the Greatest Border Crisis in U.S. History is available for pre-order. It'll be out in a couple months, the month after next. Just be patient, but you can order it. Good stocking stuffer. And you can follow me at Bensman Getter and I'm on Truth Social now too.
I still think there's a plot with your publisher not to win the election, but we'll continue another day. The book is that powerful, Overrun. Bensman's the man. Todd Bensman, thank you so much taking time away on a Friday to join us, or Thursday to join us. Thank you, sir. Hey, Gaffney, before I go to break, 30 seconds. You've been telling people hemispheric national security defense should be one of our top priorities. People have laughed it off. Talk to me about this invasion on the southern border before we go to break. We'll come back and talk about Peru and what else is happening. How serious a direct threat to national security is this, sir?
Well, the border, as Todd has said and others endlessly on this program, is a national security threat of the first order. We have no idea who's coming across that border. Todd has reported, as I'm sure you've talked with him about on my show, we discussed the other day, an Islamic-themed facility 2 blocks from the Tijuana border, in which he interviewed all kinds of people who seemed to have an uncanny similar demographic. They were all military-age young men, unaccompanied. That's a bad sign because they're also jihadis.
We're going to go to break. Hey, let me give you a worse thing than military-age men. No U.S. national security intelligence has ever been there, and the lady running it said, hey, come, we need you to do a checking. Short break. Frank Gaffney next.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
This marks Xi's first visit to the kingdom in 6 years and just his third overseas trip since the COVID-19 pandemic began almost 3 years ago. The superpower is looking to expand its global alliances beyond partnerships with the West, namely the United States, and is turning its attention to the Gulf energy giant. The visit comes at a time of particularly strained U.S.-Saudi relations due to Washington's criticism of Saudi energy policy, regional security, and human rights violations, giving a chance for Beijing to step in.
Okay, Frank Gaffney is our guest. Frank, I want you to connect some dots here because you've been doing this for a long time. You've got Xi at what's supposed to be our biggest ally in the Gulf. One, we still have bases all over protecting the oil fields there. The House of Saud, yet Biden shows up in an Uber, gets a fist bump. Xi gets the full package, right? Dancing, dancers, red carpet, the troops out, everything. Xi. The same time, Biden's kowtowing. They're telling us they're putting $40 billion into the burning dumpster fire of Ukraine, but they're swapping a female female from the WNBA to the biggest arms merchant in the world. They can put him back in business immediately for what he needs is small arms. Brazil's right on the cusp. He sends Jake Sullivan. Biden sends Jake Sullivan down to basically hug a transnational communist criminal in business with the CCP. Brazil, they got Saudi Arabia and Brazil sitting right there. Okay. He's sending that down. At the same time, Peru, which, by the way, the guy stole the election with, wait for it, machines. He finally gets impeached and jailed because he tries to take down the government. So you finally have some leftists getting the comeuppance. And you just did a great webinar today. Say, hey, look, these guys are actually so far ahead of where we think they are on nuclear weapons. Tie it all together geopolitically for us, Frank Gaffney.
Let me start with the third. The symposium, the webinar that we did today, featured some of the best U.S. nuclear weapons experts, I believe, by far. And what we came away with, Steve, was this. The Chinese Communist Party, as in so many different areas, but particularly in their military modernization program, are on the march. They are now moving very clearly in the direction of a nuclear warfighting doctrine, strategy, and capability. And we went through various different pieces of this, but it runs the gamut from now having, this was just reported to the Congress this week, more, we believe, it's still somewhat speculative because they haven't released this in an unclassified form, but the logic of it tells you they have more intercontinental range ballistic missile warheads now than we do. And that's before another 350 silos are filled with missiles that
has
have
to be
10
impossible.
warheads on them.
Is that true? Is that
that's
true?
what-
Is that going to be released classified?
They just reported to the Congress that one of three things has
That's a
happened.
wake-up call.
Yeah, they have more warheads, they have more missiles, or they have more launchers. We don't think they have more missiles. We don't think they have more launchers, but they certainly could have more warheads. But the point is, we keep telling ourselves, the administration just released on the 29th of November a report saying, hey, they've only got about 400 warheads now. And by 2035, they may have 1,500. Now, why all this matters is, Steve, our experts said that's rubbish. Not least because I know you know Phil Carber. Phil Carber led a team at Georgetown University back in 2011 that found that there were 3,000 miles of hardened underground tunnels in which the Chinese had been putting ballistic missiles, among God knows what all else. They almost certainly have more missiles than we know, and certainly more warheads, and they're building more still in these 350 silos that will have 10 warheads apiece. They have leadership defenses. We talked about the fact that they've got underground bunkers all over Beijing and elsewhere. They moved 30,000 people in the way of civil defense from the heart of a city in China a while back to the countryside through underground tunnels. In other words, they're taking this whole business of nuclear war fighting deadly seriously, and we haven't a clue. Last point, Steve, the Chinese are no longer now threatening us alone. We have to contend with the fact that they're partnered up with the Russians. Both countries have just modernized immensely their nuclear capabilities, and they're simulating nuclear attacks, joint nuclear attacks against the United States. Now, if there's any good news out of this at all, and there's not much, it is that I don't believe that the Chinese, at least, want to use all of these nuclear weapons against the United States. That's the good news. The bad news is that's because they don't want to destroy it. They want to colonize it. So they're likely to use instead what they have already used against us, which is biological weapons, because, as you know, it'll kill all the people, but it'll save all the buildings, what they used to say about the neutron bomb. So this is one of the things that we need to be focused on. And I think to answer your other questions, what's going on in Saudi Arabia? What's going on in Brazil? What's going on in Peru reflects in part the fact that a lot of countries, allies of the United States, countries that have been at least friendly to us, more or less, are now fingers in the wind. Some are making a separate peace with the Chinese, the rising power, like Mohammed bin Salman, the great hope of a more modest, moderate, and reformist Saudi Arabia not so long ago. He's throwing in with the Chinese, I think. He may want to hedge his bets and still have a relationship with us, but not so much. And the Chinese, I think, will insist less and less. In Brazil, Steve, and you've been doing a great job with Matt Turman and the team to describe what's going on there, there's still hope that the military, which has the responsibility to prevent election fraud, will step in and say, no, you're not going to steal this election, Lula, who is a Chinese communist agent, full stop. Now, over in Peru, my wife is from Peru, as you know. We have been watching this very closely. A communist won the election, I believe you're absolutely right, by fraud, and he has now been thrown out because he was about to be impeached, and rather than face that, he decided he would dissolve the Congress. That resulted in both the Congress and the military and the judiciary, everybody basically saying this guy's got to go. That's the good news. The bad news is I'm not sure it's the end of the left in Peru. It should be. But instead, his vice president, who is also a Marxist, who is also corrupt, and who just doesn't seem to be quite as stupid as this fellow Pedro Castillo, is now in charge. Her name is Dina Boluarte, and she is going to try to stave off the calls for early elections, which might turn things around.
If we lose, it was a bad
Brazil,
deal because
final thought. If we lose Brazil, if we lose Peru, every major nation in the Western Hemisphere, including ours and Canada, will be run by Marxists. This must not happen.
this must not happen. By the way, the New York Times was lauding her, so you know it's a problem. He got blown out. She's the one they really wanted. She's the one they really wanted. Frank,
I believe that's the play.
That was the play. By the way, people should know Brazil's right on the edge. I think you're going to see the military step in here, but we'll have to see. But constitutionally, they got the constitutional right to do it. Frank, how do people get to you, get to the show? How do they get to all your content and pick up the seminar from today, the webinar?
Okay. PresentDangerChina.org is where you can get the webinar and about 45 others that you really need to see. You can subscribe to them there. SecureFreedom.org is the site of our Center for Security Policy. I'm very proud of that one as well. SecuringAmerica.tv is the site for the TV show, the radio show, my commentaries. And of course, you can watch us on Real America's Voice every morning.
Frank, thank you very much. Frank Gaffney. Amazing.
Thank you
so much.
God bless you.
Boris has stepped out of a meeting to call us. Boris, what kind of day is it when she's there getting the full royal treatment as the Emperor Xi? Biden had to catch an Uber, go over and get fist bumped by MBS. Is the world turned upside down?
Uber, they didn't send Biden an Uber or a Lyft. They put him in like a rickety ring cab. Maybe it was one of those things with a bike in front of it. That's all Joe Biden had. Joe Biden has done more to crush American excellence than anybody who's ever occupied the Oval Office. Biden is illegitimate. Biden is pathetic. And Biden is useless. He's a disaster to the United States of America. And it's on full display there with this conglomeration now, right, of Saudi Arabia, Iran, Russia, and China.
Boris, I asked you to step out because you know Russia. Today, we traded the biggest arms deal in the world. We sent $40 billion. We approved the defense authorization, $40 billion to the dumpster fire that's Ukraine. But at the same time, we gave him the biggest arms deal in the world. That's the guy Putin needs more than ever to get small arms for a WNBA player. Is that a good trade, sir? Would President Trump do that deal?
President Trump would never do that deal. And President Trump put out a powerhouse post today on that, criticizing not just the fact that it is a terrible, terrible exchange for the United States of America to exchange a basketball player who hates our country for literally the man known as the Merchant of Death. There's a movie, pretty good actually, called Lord of War. It's about Victor Boot, okay? Literally the guy we traded today, who, as President Trump aptly said, is responsible for tens of thousands of deaths and grotesque injuries all across the world. All across the world. This trade was just another long example of how the Biden crime family, the Biden regime, continues to sell America down the river. And then for them to leave a Marine, Paul Whelan, in Russia, to not include him in this exchange is about as un-American as it gets. Why? They thought that Whelan wouldn't get the press coverage that they wanted for Brittany Griner. Who knows why? But the fact they left us American there and they did a one-for-one trade, how many Americans are going to get killed by the Merchant of Death in exchange of getting Brittany Griner back because she chose to smoke whatever she did or didn't do, neither here nor there, with the weed.
Hey, for the Bidens, the murder, by the way, the 51st state, Zelensky, how many poor Ukrainians are going to die because of this? Because the weapon's going to go right there. They cry big crocodile tears for Zelensky. Now they're rearming small arms that kill more Ukrainians. Boris Epshteyn.
And it's interesting when they say where Boots work, they say, Venezuela, Africa. You better believe that now that they've let the Merchant of Death go, he's going right to work on Ukraine. And then how many, hey, we always talked about this before. You know that American, quote unquote, advisors are boots on the ground. So how many Americans are going to die? How many Ukrainians are going to die?
Yep.
How much American resources is going to go away? This was one of the worst. This was an absolute and total national security and foreign policy disaster. And to paint it anything other than that is a joke. It was, as you look back at history, America used to say we don't negotiate with terrorists. This was the direct opposite of that.
Yep. 100%.
And you know what?
Boris,
I
appreciate
happened
you.
to see.
Yep.
I happened to see Admiral Kirby on Fox today, getting crushed by Martha McCallum. Kirby ought to resign Kirby ought to hand in his commission. Kirby needs to be publicly disgraced for how glib and smug he was about what happened today and how many Americans are going to die as a result.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. Boris, thanks for stepping out. I know you're in very important meetings in South Florida. How do people get to you on social media and get your morning newsletter?
Honor to be with you, Steve. Honor to be with the posse. Information, BorisCP.com is the website. Hot on BorisCP.com. Hot on Getter at BorisCP. On Twitter at BorisCP. Hot on Truth Social at Boris. Hottest on the gram. Boris_Epshteyn. Stay strong. God bless all offense. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Boris. Jay Ellis. Jay, we had such an overwhelming response this morning, and people contacted me all day, said, hey, it's the greatest idea for a Christmas gift ever. Walk us through the game, but particularly how you've updated it. It updates constantly so people can use this as a heuristic device to really learn about what these investigations are going to be about, sir.
All right, well, I want to do one quick. Frank Gaffney is one of my dear friends. Want to give a shout out to Frank. Steve, look, let's just do this. Promo code War Room. All right? Promo code War Room. Buy the game, electionfund.com. Now, let me get to the good stuff. It is not only is it, as you call it, a heuristic device, it's a really, really fun game. And it's, I think, the very first interactive board game. I mean, you know, we have the Russia, we have COVID, we have Summer of Love, we have Campaign Follies, and then we have the Inside Game. But we have QR codes on several of the cards in the game. You put your phone over it, and we can pull up a packet of 7 videos and information packets about all the current events going on. And we continually update it. So it never goes out of style. It never, nothing ever fades. You always have something to talk about while you're playing the game. You always have that. And that's what it makes it so fun and special. And it is literally the greatest Christmas present of the year. And like I said earlier, under $50, it's not expensive. Everybody will love it. The family can get together, invite your friends over, but it is always updated on all the current political events with the QR codes in the game. You have your phone, everybody can have a discussion, everybody has fun, and everybody enjoys it.
Well, you're going to have some debates, and you may have a fight or two, which is like a great. But here's the thing: not only do you get to find out everything about 2020 the elections, but as Elon makes all this more available, you're going to have a background and actually understand it. And then you've got the QR code on the new cards. Boom, you'll be able to pull it right down. This is what I call heuristic: the ability to actually learn something while you're having fun. And to be conversant in the news as things come across is going to be amazing, because the game itself, really, you don't really understand 2020 until you've played it, I think, because you get into the middle of it, you get into the details of it. But you add what Elon Musk, and remember for the audience, Elon Musk will be dropping bombshells every couple of days. Jay Ellis.
I agreed 100%, and that's why we made it interactive, because we want to keep it. I mean, there are so many, we have to literally choose what we want to have, in the mixes, because so much stuff is going on. But you'll always be up to date. And again, all the people, there's so many people that are just like, well, I'm not really sure, and I don't know what you're talking about. Boom, show them. I mean, show them. And I mean, again, you've got the proof in your hands. And again, the Elon thing is going to be huge. I mean, we're updating the Arizona. This ongoing saga in Arizona is crazy. And, not to mention the upcoming, investigations that are going to be going on. We've got so much information to get out, and you'll always be up to date. You'll always be ready. And again, Steve, we've had a great response from the War Room. We want everybody to get the best Christmas gift of the year. Promo code War Room. ElectionFund, FUN.com. Go to the website, order your game, promo code War Room. Get it today, get it for Christmas now.
Jay Ellis, thank you very much. ElectionFund.com, promo code War Room. Get the election game with all the new updates, etc. You're going to have a blast. Maybe a few fights, but that's good. It's all in the family, among friends. Jay Ellis, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, Steve. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, brothers. Look for it. At Crom Carmichael. I got to tell you, Crom, I get nothing but every time I have you on here, people just, they get to me, they appreciate it. Tell me about Soul Tea, and particularly, how do we get it? How do people get it? You got to, listen, we need everybody in for the long haul. To be here for the long haul, you got to take care of your heart. How do they do it, Crom?
Yeah, Steve, I appreciate you having me on. And yesterday I'd mentioned that some folks have, some of my friends who watch the War Room, they say, Crom, you're a little bit old to be the spokesperson. And I said, no, I'm the right person to be the spokesperson because I've taken the product for 18 years. And I'm 74 years old, been taking our product for 18 years. And when I started taking it 18 years ago, my bad cholesterol was 130. 90 days later, it was down to 89, and it's been under 90 ever since. My blood pressure's in great shape, and I take 0 prescription drugs. And so I am the calendar boy. Not a great calendar, but I'm the calendar boy for Soul Tea. And I hope you're taking yours, by the way. But it's 2 capsules a day.
Every day, 2 of them.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. It's two soft gels a day. And here's kind of a way to think about it. I try to walk as much as I can, but I don't particularly like to walk. I do it because I know I need to walk in order to have good health for as long as I can. But if I could pay somebody to walk for me and get the benefit of walking, I would do that. Well, Soul Tea will do something similar in that it'll help your heart for 70 cents a day. 70 cents a day on our subscription plan, because when you sign up for our subscription plan, you get 3 bottles every 90 days for the price of 2, and we pay the freight. So it's really a great deal. And we also have with the War Room, if people go to warroomhealth.com, that's warroomhealth.com, and use the code WARROOM at checkout, they'll get $29.95 off their initial shipment of their subscription. So we try to give you a great opportunity to get started. But then once you're in, take those 2 capsules every day, and it'll help your heart, it'll help your cardiovascular system and your health.
People are raving about this. Crom Carmichael, thank you very much for being on here.
Thanks, Steve.
Soul
Appreciate
Tea.
it.
I take my 2. Do you? Thank you, brother. Get rid of the bad cholesterol. Take care of your heart. We need you in for the long haul. Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, a Friday on fire. Be back here in the War Room. See you then.